My next presenter needs absolutely no introduction. Evander Holyfield, he was inducted to the International Hall of Fame for boxing, and reigned as the undisputed champion in both cruiserweight and heavyweight divisions, earning him the nickname of the real deal. He has brought the passion and drive that he had to the world of business now, launching products, promoting events, and building relationships around the world. He's going to tell us a little bit about the dedication, grit, and passion that he successfully used to defend the undisputed heavyweight title 3 times. But out of all of your accomplishments, what would you say is the one that you're the most proud of, Evander?
I would say the best fight was me making the Olympic team. In 1984, I got an opportunity to be one of the 12 men to make that team.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was the last one, but I made it.
And I'm sure not by the hair of your teeth. Tell me about that experience. How was it representing the country like that?
Well, it was great. As an amateur, I was a top Olympian, and to make the Olympic team, I had to beat a guy named Ricky Womack, who was the reigning amateur world champion. So to be the very best, I had to beat the very best first to get into the Olympics in 1984. And I was able to accomplish that, and it was just a thrill to represent our country.
That's awesome. And there's so much, with today's scheduling, there's so much to do in so little time, as we move forward with technology. And if you could give us a tip for, how we can beat the rat race, and we can run, and from somebody who's trained for the Olympics, how can we take that kind of a drive and dedication, and we can take that focus so we can succeed in our day-to-day business?
Well, I think it's 3 things that I would talk about my mom. She said, listen, follow direction, and don't quit. These 3 things will make you successful in anything that you continue to do. And I listen, I follow direction. Things didn't always go, the way that I want, but if you don't quit, you'll learn from your mistakes, and learning from your mistake kind of give you that passion, that drive that you've been so long. Why quit? Because you keep going, you're gonna reach your goal, and I was able to do that.
Yeah. And while you were coming up, while you were getting started, can you tell me a story, kind of how that kind of drive really pushed you past everybody else? Because your talent really kind of is what skyrocketed you, but I think what really made you the champion that you are is that grit and that passion that kept you going.
Well, it was my mother. I'm like, when I got 16 years old, I was good, but the prom came up, all these distractions and all that, and my mama wouldn't let me go to the prom, and I thought it was the worst thing in the world. And by me learning how to make sacrifice at the age of 16 years old and 17, 18, then when I become the world champion, and I'm in Las Vegas, and it's a lot of distraction, but because I was accustomed to, I was what they would call I was the show.
Yeah.
So I became the person who's the performer, don't need to be out there with the people. You have to be here, you by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But when the fight is over, everybody else got to go to work, because the weekend is over. You get 2 or 3 weeks off. So it's kind of balanced itself out. But if I wouldn't have learned it at a young age, I would have never got to the point to be able to stay at the top as long as I stayed.
Yeah. And there was an interesting study that was done where, that being able to delay gratification is actually one of the most important things that it takes to be successful in life. So learning that at an early age, I think your mom really set you up for that success. But have you ever been satisfied after hitting a milestone? One of our members asked this question. Have you ever been satisfied after hitting one of those milestones that you set for yourself? Or are you always looking to get better and to hit something bigger? Can you hear me?
No, it was kind of shaky.
Okay.
I didn't hear.
Okay. Have you ever, one of our members asked a really poignant question. Yeah, have you ever been satisfied after hitting one of your milestones that you set for yourself, or are you always looking to go higher, to reach higher and hit the next big one?
Well, the point is goals, goal setting. And so, of course, at 8 years old, I started boxing. And then at 9 years old, I'm the Boys Club champion. Then after the Boys Club champion, it was the Junior Olympic champion. At 13 years old, I became the Junior Olympic champion. Then of course, I turned 16, and I was hoping to try to make the Olympic team in 1980, and I wasn't good enough. But then that Olympics, we didn't go to the Olympics in 80. Then in 84, I was ready.
Yeah.
And I made the Olympic team. Then, so once I made the Olympic team, ultimately it was when because people knew that I was told that I could be like Muhammad Ali when I was 8 years old. And so my mama asked me, she said, "Do you want me to help you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." And so, of course, when I reached the age of 16, I want to go to the prom. And my mama told me, she said, "Son, then you're not telling you want to be like Ali." My mama said, average people go to the prom because everybody who's in the junior and high school, you don't have to do nothing to go to prom.
Mm-hmm.
But to go, I had an opportunity to go to Canada because I won the championship.
Okay.
And she said, "You worked hard, but I was gonna replace it for the prom." But my mom said, "No, you're not gonna be average. You're gonna do the things that you work for."
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to do it, and I go to the tournament and I win the whole tournament. I come back, I'm happy, but I'm thinking that I missed something.
Right.
My mom told me you hadn't missed anything. But because my mother put me in that position, I realized in life you cannot lose focus. If you lose focus, you're not going to be the very best.
It's all about those small choices that make the biggest difference. And
Yes.
it's interesting how that kind of resonates here. And, as far as, making, this, your passion, your hobby, and your hobby, your career, but that's not exactly true with anybody that's tried to make the hobby their career. I mean, after a while, it just becomes a job or a chore, right? So what can somebody do to keep their focus, while they may love their work, after a while, you got to get through the tedium. How do you bear down? How do you grit? And how do you really focus to be the best at what you do?
Well, they have to like to do with the individual and the friends that they choose.
Interesting.
So you can be being distracted by your friends. And I was fortunate enough to have a good mother who kind of always talking to me and telling me that, about humility. Don't think so highly of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think of other people, and you got to go back and give back, just as someone gave to you. Now, I didn't become Evander Holyfield, this great boxer, all by myself. Now, if it wasn't for my mom, if it wasn't for my brothers and sisters, but if it wasn't for that boxing coach who took his time and taught me all these things, and plus, at that young age, I didn't come from a family that had money, but this man, Mr. Morgan, he paid for everything for me, made sure that I got the best. And getting the very best, I turned out to be the best. And having good friendship, I wasn't able to hang out with people who didn't have goals.
Mm.
And one of the biggest thing in life is to be around people who don't have goals. You become just like your company.
That's a great example. And do you feel that having a coach and always having those mentors in your life, is that important for other people to emulate? And how do you really find who you should have as a mentor or a coach? How do you select that person?
Well, with me, it's hard for me to say because you know what? Because as kids, you pretty much guided by your parents. So when people talk about how good I am, I should know my mama was really the real deal. I only did what my mama said because my mama was the only one that was able to whoop me. I try to whoop somebody else, but I can't try to whoop my mom. So it was my mama who steered me in that proper direction. So even as one said they successful, your success starts at home and failure starts at home. It's what that household is, and in the household I came from, I was the youngest of 9, and my brothers and sisters, they have a lot to do with it because they wouldn't let me do what they did. And so that's another reason why I'm successful. It's not me just because I was this good guy, because I was the guy that got 3 whoopings a day. I actually always get in trouble. You're going to stop. And I became who I am because my mother didn't quit. If my mother would have quit first, then I probably wouldn't have been nothing. But because my mother was strong, I became who I am.
That's fantastic. And have you ever dealt with failure? And how did you bounce back from that?
Well, because I was taught as a kid. I lost my first match when I was 11 years old. I was 11 years old. Of course, when I lost, I started crying. I told the man I didn't like him no more. I quit. And I went home and I told my mama I quit. And my mama's eyes went back in her head and told me, "You're not a quitter. And you're not going to quit." And she sent me back, and that man said, "What you doing back here?" I said, "My mama said I couldn't quit." He looked at me and said, "I told you you had a good mom." Because when I was 8 years old and I wanted to be like Muhammad Ali, and the man told me I could be like him, he said, "What do you think?" I told him I had to ask my mom. Then the man told me, "You got a good mom." So, I'm like saying, "Kid, this man don't know my mom." But the fact is that he knew that when you have good parents, kids talk about it. They tell you, "I got to ask mom, I got to ask my dad." But like this line allow people to know that this kid has been brought up properly, because the kid can't do nothing of themselves.
And as far as building that up, how do you give back? How are you kind of passing on all these lessons that you learned to the next generation?
Well, it's easy because at home I have to always tell my kids, "Look, this is what my mama did for me because she wanted me to be better." And so I'm the youngest of 9 in my family, but my mother told me I wasn't poor. My mama said she was poor, and she said, "If I don't make the mistakes that she made, then I would not be poor." And so my mother kept me on that path because my mother wanted me to be better. So my mother constantly tells me, "I love you and I want you to be better. So I'm going to tell you the mistakes that I made where you won't make them."
Yeah.
So each generation is supposed to get better, but the only way they can get better is the parents themselves tell the kids the mistake they made, where the kids won't have to make the same one.
Not falling into the same traps. One of our members asked a really good question. Do you prefer competing in sports or business?
Well, I'm a cousin, like with me, like I tell people don't choose their parents. I didn't choose my parents. And, my mother didn't breed. My father didn't breed. But what they did, they outworked people. And they said, eventually if you outwork people, then you'll grow understanding and to learn some of the things. But I was able to get a 12th grade education. I made the best of the 12th grade education, but sports itself came a little easier to me because I was accustomed to working hard. And my mama used to say, 99% of the time, if you outwork people, you're gonna get the win. And outwork people. Eventually, you do things enough, you'll come to the understanding.
That's an awesome example. And as far as the business world, it does take a lot of grit to stick to it and keep moving forward. What drives you? What motivates you now?
I'm a very competitive person by nature, but I love to win. Everything of winning, I want to be part of. So selectively, you got to choose people who are winners. You got to choose people who are just like you, people who better than you in something that you're not. And so when you find yourself, surround yourself with people who are better than you in different fields, you become smarter yourself. And you ain't the one that do all the talking.
Yeah. And as far, have you made any mistakes with business yet? What slip ups have you made? And how do you come back from that?
Well, a setback pays away for a comeback. So
yeah.
So meaning that I wasn't good with money, but I didn't waste my money. But a lot of time, if you don't pay attention to some money, somebody else will take it like this. So I made a lot of mistakes like that, and sometimes you tend to give a little bit more without writing it down, finding out all of these things that you give out too much or too less. So the big thing in life with me is that when you don't know anything, a lot of time it's hard for special men to tell somebody, I don't know what I'm doing. You kind of think you get kind of embarrassed to let somebody know that you don't know what you're doing, and you sit here and you look around because you only have. Then I found out in life is that you have just as much confidence it takes me to get in a ring. I started looking at it that it takes confidence for me to ask somebody, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? And I found out a lot of people really want to help a person, but a lot of people were kind of too embarrassed or afraid to ask for help. And so I put myself in a position to ask for help. When I started asking for help, I'm doing better.
That's a phenomenal example. And I think a lot of people don't take that approach where, you really should. Because a lot of people, they just want to help. And a lot of people fake it till they make it. They put that face on and, they really try to stick to it. But if you could give advice to everybody, on the one thing that they can do today to mentally prepare for success this year, what can they do to really focus their goals and to get better?
Well, I think that the three things like listen, follow direction, not quit, those little three things is that if you apply that to anything, you're going to get better. You're going to get better. You're going to know what you want to do. You're going to know what you don't want to do. I say, but there's a price tag for everything that is necessary to happen that it's going to take time. So a person the worst thing in life is being lazy, because a good person not gonna like you and a bad person ain't gonna like it. People don't like people lazy, because that means you're not gonna do it like that. So the whole big thing is to, number one, you got to put that X in lazy, and lazy means not applying what you know, like that. And so the point of the matter, my mother said, no, you'll never be lazy, because people lazy don't exist long at all.
That's fantastic. I appreciate your time so much, and I know you're being humble and a little bit modest, but the things that you do turn to gold. So thank you so much. I loved the information.
Thank you very much.